Evil beware. We have waffles.
Do you like waffles? Yeah, we like waffles. Do you like pig?
Hi. List. About 130.
Hello, folks. This is Blind Adam, the comic pimp. This is the Awesome Sauce Comics podcast. I've been talking about this all week. The interview with Marv Wolfman. I'm going to shut my fat mouth. I'm just going to play the interview so we can all enjoy it. Testify! I tell you this every freaking day, bro. Every day. See, you see that button there? You gotta flip it up, see? You hit the triangle like that, see?
So, how did you break into the comic book industry?
I published a lot of fan magazines, fanzines, which it was called back then, and I sent them to the editors. There weren't quite as many as there are today, because there was only really one or two companies that published the type of material I was writing, and they must have liked what they saw because they asked me to submit some material.
Ah, sweet. Is it true in one of your fanzines that you published early work by Stephen King?
Yeah, it was sent to me, and it was published. I think it's his first published work. It was part of the story was published previously in another fanzine at the same time, but this was the first publishing, I believe, of the entire story.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. It was pretty good. Of course, back then, he was just Steve King, and it was a submission, and it was pretty good, which is why I wanted to publish it. But there was certainly no knowledge of what he would become.
Oh wow, that's amazing. So, what was your favorite character in comics before you started writing them?
Superman.
Superman. Cool. What? When did you actually? I know that you started writing Superman before or after Crisis.
Oh, I've written Superman on and off since late 1960s or early 1970s. So yes, I wrote him quite a bit.
Oh wow. You created Cat Grant?
Yes.
What do you think of Felissa Flockhart's portrayal of her in Supergirl?
Oh, I love it. I mean, it's not quite Cat that we did in the comics, but the background for that character is identical because they've said that she was a gossip columnist. She has a son named Adam, so all of that is exact. And she has since moved on and become this big media sensation. So I sort of think of it as we wrote her early days, and now that's what she's doing up to date.
That's it. I love Supergirl's become my favorite show on TV right now, and I'm loving Felissa Flockhart in that role.
Yeah, she's great. But I loved her in Ally McBeal too. So when I heard that she was going to be Cat, I thought it was phenomenal.
Sweet. So, when did you start first working for DC? Back in the 60s?
1967 was my first sale.
Oh, wow. That is sweet. And then after that, you switched over to Marvel for a while?
I worked at Marvel in the 70s. And I worked there for a long number of years. I was the editor-in-chief.
Ah, sweet. Was that after Roy?
Yeah, right after Roy.
Alright. Cool. I want to thank you for your Daredevil run, which is one of my favorites.
Oh, thank you. I enjoyed him.
So, how did you come up with the character of Bullseye, which is one of my favorite supervillains of all time?
Since Daredevil can't see, and he works off of hearing and whatever radar vision is, I wanted a character who did not necessarily have to be next to him. He would be out of range, but since Daredevil couldn't see, if he threw a knife at Daredevil, it would be too late by the time Daredevil could figure out what was happening. So the idea was to have a long-range villain that didn't have to fight him, because he'd lose otherwise.
Cool. And then, of course, you also created one of my favorite Spider-Man runs of all time.
Oh, thank you. That I really loved.
Yeah, all from when you had Peter propose to MJ all the way up through the Return of the Burglars. Really one of my favorite comic book runs of all time.
Oh, great, thanks. I also wrote a couple of issues after that, too.
That's right. That's right. There was that Punisher team up at the after that, which is sweet. What was your process in creating some of those stories in Spidey at that time?
Well, Spider-Man was very much a soap opera type character, so my goal was to come up with as many story concepts for each one of the characters that would create problems for him down the line. So what you do is you sit down and you figure out what's going to happen with this character that will affect Spider-Man, or this character, or that character, or that character. And when you start working out all the different characters and how they're all going to interface with your main character, you work up, I hope, an interesting storyline.
Sweet. And that like I said, it really, I just recently read most of it, and it still holds up to me today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. So you worked with the late, great Gene Colan on Team of Dracula, and co-created Blade. What was it like working with Gene?
Well, I was a huge fan of Gene's even before we started working together, so it was a total thrill to actually work with him. Gene's artwork is so realistic and so emotional that it certainly helped me as a writer start to think about writing different type of stories than were usual at the time, because I was a fairly new writer when I started with him. And the fact that he can make all these characters look so real and have real emotions made me start to write stories about that used his ability in a way that I didn't think a lot of other writers did at the time. He could certainly tell action and do all of the other things, but in a book like Dracula, which is a horror book, which is more about real people, his work was just the best.
Yeah, it's actually some of the work I wish I could still see 110% good.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. It's really gorgeous.
Yeah, so what went into the creation of Blade?
I can't tell you because Blade came to me literally in 1 second. I wasn't thinking about him, and the entire character came to me instantly. The way he looked, his background, his origin, everything about him just popped into my head, and there's only been 2 times that's ever happened. So, and the other one was deathstroke, but it just happened. So I can't talk about, as I did with Bullseye or some of the other characters, why I put them together like that. He just came to me full blown.
That's awesome when that happens. I'm actually write from time to time myself, and when something just pops in your head like that, getting to see it come to life has got to be such a thrill.
It is, because almost invariably those characters work perfectly, because they emerge full blown and every part of it is figured out in advance somehow. I always feel that what's happening is actually the back of our heads don't go to sleep, and we're constantly thinking of stuff, but we're not aware of it, and then it emerges full blown.
Yeah. So speaking of Deathstroke, you created what was it like creating the new Teen Titans and going head-to-head in the 80s with Chris Claremont and the X-Men?
I'm sorry, your voice is fading. Can you say that again?
Yeah, sure, I'm sorry about that. What was it like working with George on the new Teen Titans?
Oh, well, George and I were friends. I mean, we worked together at Marvel, and we did a couple of jobs together, and I was his editor at Marvel. So when I moved over to DC and convinced them to do the new Teen Titans, I ran into George up at Marvel, told him what we were doing, and asked if he'd be interested, and he was. He also wanted to do the Justice League, and they certainly didn't have a problem with that because, unfortunately or sadly, the previous artist, Dick Dillon, had just passed away. So George coming over to DC filled that spot for the Justice League and also the Teen Titans. But George is a brilliant artist, and he was a friend, so we were able to sit together and talk out the stories and talk out the characters, and there's no one better for superhero work than George.
Yeah, and he's also one of the nicest people you're ever going to meet, too.
Yes, he is. He's without a doubt one of the sweethearts in comics. I don't think there's anybody quite like him.
Yeah, so did you guys have any inkling that Teen Titans was going to take off the way it did?
Can you say that again?
Did you have any idea that Teen Titans was going to take off the way it did?
Oh no, no, we couldn't have expected that. In 1980, almost every new DC comic that had been published for the last couple of years died by the 6th issue. So we certainly didn't have any expectations of the Titans succeeding, but George and I decided if we were going to create our own book, we were going to do the best job we could. We were going to write it exactly the way we thought a book should be done. And then after 6 issues or 8 issues or whatever it would be, the thing would be canceled and we'd move on to other stuff, but at least we would do it exactly the way we wanted to. And, I stayed on for 16 years, so obviously it worked.
Yeah, and created some of the greatest stories in comic book history, especially Judas Contract.
Yeah, that seems to be the big popular one.
Yeah, actually, the one thing that a friend of mine over at the Fat Man on Batman podcast wanted me to ask is, how did you get away with the Slade-Wilson-Tara relationship in that story?
Well, we didn't say anything overtly. You had to read into it, and the Comics Code didn't read into it, so we got away with it.
Sweet.
We just did what we felt. It wasn't drawn to be salacious, and since we never said she was 15 years old, there was no reason for the Comics Code to think that something wrong was going on there.
Yeah, good. That's to my friend Kevin Smith. I hope I'm going to send him this when I'm done, and that will get his clarification on that. Yeah, so you said Deathstroke just came to you. Have you seen Menu's portrayal of him on Arrow?
Of course. Manu was great. In fact, I have a beautiful picture that we took together at a convention. I thought he did a phenomenal job with Deathstroke. I can't imagine it having been done any better. He was great on it, and I wish that he was still doing it.
Yeah, same here. I don't understand why Warner Brothers has to keep TV and movies separate sometimes.
Every company is a little bit different, and I think that's their philosophy. They don't want to be hemmed in on certain things, and I certainly can understand it. I'm just talking from my own point of view. I wish, I loved his work on it and wish that he was still doing it. Hopefully the character will appear in movies. I have no idea one way or the other, but if it does, I hope that either he or someone just as good, if there is, can take on the character.
Same here. He is one of my favorite villains, as I told you in my initial email. When I first started a villain that was blind in one eye, and I'm going blind due to a retinal disease, I was just like, I saw myself being that character.
Well, I hope not, since he's a murderer.
Just what you can do if you apply yourself correctly.
Yeah, I think he's a very strong character. As I say, he came to me right away, or instantly, so the fact that he was blind in one eye made him even more daring, and more special, and the fact that he didn't even he didn't let anyone, I'm not phrasing this right, he didn't care if anyone knew.
Yeah.
Made it even more interesting, and that was George's touch. So, I thought it was just great. He's one of my favorites.
Yeah, like I said, thank you. And when I was researching your career for the interview, I was just like, wow, he actually wrote everything that I loved in my childhood. I was like, holy cow.
Oh, cool. Thank you.
Yeah, and of course, you and George would go on to create the Crisis on Infinite Earths, would you?
Yes.
Did they give you a kill list when you guys wrote that and created it?
Yes and no. I had a number of characters that I wrote. I put in a list and sent it to them because obviously everything had to be approved. And then they and the editors came back with other characters, some of which, I liked, some of which I was sorry went away. But if they came from the publisher or something, that was that. But I was the one who suggested Supergirl, and a few of the others. In her case, it was because we wanted to make Superman the only survivor from Krypton. Now, I always thought that eventually there'd be a new Supergirl, so I wasn't surprised, but then they would begin it from scratch and do it, and not make the mistakes they did with the original. So I thought it was, I thought it worked out well, and they did give me a list of characters they thought should be removed as well. Again, the assumption being that they would at some point be recreated.
Was Barry Allen your decision or their decision?
That was theirs.
Which was until a couple years ago, I thought one of the only comic book deaths that would stick.
Well, it wasn't. It lasted 25 years, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
You consider that a brand new thing at that point. And certainly the Flash comic has gotten stronger because of it. It has been a whole new philosophy on how he's done. But the most you can do is you do the job that you... Even though I didn't agree with the Flash being killed, what we tried to do and what I wanted very much was to make sure that if he was going to die, that we gave him a really good death, that he was very important to the story, and make him worthy of that position, because he was the first of the Silver Age heroes.
Yeah, it's still a very touching part of the story to read too. I just listened to the audiobook of it, and it just still, the sacrifice that he makes is still, it's like, wow.
Yeah, the audiobook's from my Audible, and I'm very pleased with that.
Excuse me.
No problem.
You wrote The Death of Jason Todd?
Yes, I didn't create Jason Todd, I created Tim Drake.
Yes, but did you write The Death of Jason?
No.
No? Alright.
No. I had nothing to do with Jason. He was already dead when they asked me to come up with a new Robin, and I came up with Tim. But I had nothing at all to...
I guess that...
Jason in the comics.
Alright, oops, sorry about that. That little tidbit I got off of Wikipedia, so... But you did do one of my other favorite things with Robin, which was turning Dick Grayson from Robin into Nightwing. How did that come about?
Well, we were using Robin, of course, in the Teen Titans, but we had changed the character so much. When we took him over, I think he was like 14 or 15 in Batman, and we certainly made him 18 or 19, because otherwise it wouldn't work as the leader of the Titans. And I didn't want to write a story. I didn't want to write him as a young character, so we aged him and made him far more vital, and we gave him a personality that he really didn't have before. It was sort of just a character who joked around a lot and then fought the bad guys. So what happened was the Batman editors decided they wanted Robin back into Batman. They wanted it to be Batman and Robin again, and they were going to make him young again. So I said, I really don't want that to happen. Why don't I keep Dick Grayson? Because I don't care about Robin. I cared about Dick Grayson, and you create a new Robin and make it a big special situation. And they thought that would be good publicity for the Batman books, and it was certainly, by creating the new Robin. In that case, it was
that was Jason at that point.
That was Jason, and then George and I just converted Robin into Nightwing. That also worked well because we pretty much had split up Batman and Robin in the pages of Titans. Robin had gone off on his own, so the fact that he was now able to wear his own uniform and have his own name fit into the storyline we were doing anyway. So it was one of those lucky things. If the editor had said no, I don't know what we would have done, but I would have fought to keep Dick Grayson. Fortunately, he was more interested in Robin than who was Robin.
That's awesome. You also did a lot of work for Disney, which... I see. What was it like working on Mickey Mouse and, especially your Uncle Scrooge stuff?
The thing about the Disney stuff, which nobody really considers, is that those are some of the strongest plotted stories that you can do, because they have to work on so many levels. Also, you can do an adventure story with Mickey Mouse, and he comes from adventure stories back in the 1930s in the newspaper strip. Not in the cartoons, but in the newspaper strip. But once you put a mouse in it, it becomes funny rather than treacherous or deadly or anything. So I was able to do some really strong Mickey Mouse and Uncle Scrooge stories, and they're very, very carefully plotted. I have to say they're probably among the absolute favorites of mine in terms of the stories that I came up with for those characters. So I was really pleased at the chance of doing them, because I love Mickey and Scrooge anyway. So to be one of the people who had worked on both of those was great.
That's amazing. I'm gonna have to go find that stuff somewhere because that's some of your stuff I've never read and never know it exists. I'm gonna have to find
Well,
it.
all the Uncle Scrooge stuff was reprinted in a collected edition, so you could probably find that. Just Skype it. I mean, not Skype it. Go on Amazon. You could probably write Mickey Mouse or Uncle Scrooge by Marv Wolfman, and you will get that. Some of the Mickey Mouse stories have been reprinted.
All right, sweet. We're definitely gonna go on Amazon later on tonight after I'm done watching an episode or two of the new Daredevil season.
Okay.
Do you think we'll eventually get a live-action Bullseye?
A live-action which?
Bullseye.
I would like it. I hope so. But that's really up to them. I have nothing to do with Marvel or the shows.
Mm-hmm.
So, Bullseye was in the Daredevil movie, and I thought he was the best thing in it. So I hope at some point that they do a live version in the show, because the first season of Daredevil was excellent.
Yeah, I actually just finished season 1 today, and it's one of the best TV shows out there besides The Flash.
Yeah, it's really good. Yeah.
Do you have any advice for anyone who's trying to become a comic book writer or a writer in general?
I would say first, don't concentrate on becoming a comic book writer. Work on becoming a good writer, and then you can do comics and you can do other things as well. I write lots of different things. I write video games, I write novels, I write animation, and obviously my big love is writing the comic books, but I think if you only write one thing, your writing slowly becomes tired. By writing a lot of different things, it always keeps you thinking. So just keep working at it, keep writing. Listen to the people when they give you their opinions. Don't show it necessarily to your family, because they're going to like everything. Find people whose opinions you actually trust and encourage them to be critical, because you're not going to learn anything by people saying it's good, but if you listen to somebody complain, and if the complaint makes sense, you'll learn something from that.
Yeah, sweet, thank you. Where do you see the industry going in the next couple of years?
If you asked me that 10 years ago, I probably could have given you an answer. I have no idea right now. Everything is in such flux that it's hard to tell. I just don't know. My assumption is there'll be a lot more original digital work, because that stuff can be gotten anywhere you live. It doesn't matter if there's a comic book shop in your neighborhood or not. You can get it at home. But what the material will be, what's popular, or any of that, I really don't have an idea right now.
All right, that's actually one of the fairest answers I've got to that question yet. Like I said, you going to be at any conventions during convention season, now that we're officially into it?
I do a lot of conventions. I'll be doing, let's see if I can recall, WonderCon next week. I'll be doing San Diego Comic-Con. I'll be doing Boston, Indiana, I think, and a couple of others. I just came back from London. I've had to turn down conventions in Brazil and Puerto Rico, unfortunately, because they interfered with other conventions I were already committed to. I'll also be in Kansas for Smallville Con. So, I do a lot of cons.
Actually, I'm actually thinking of going to Smallville Con, just because I always wanted to go, and, this may be the year I actually do it.
This will be my first year.
Yeah, I'll make a point to stop by and say hello to you in Boston.
Please do.
I get a couple books signed. Maybe even ask another question or two, because I know once I hang up the phone, I'm going to be like, I'll look at my cheat sheet and be like, whoops.
Okay, free.
Yep, and last but not least, I just really want to say thank you for your career. Thank you for your entire body of work that I've loved. And
well, thank you. We try to do what we really enjoy, and hopefully it works. You can't ever be sure. You can only try to do the best that you can, and it's very lucky if it does work. And you keep pushing at it.
That is great, and you have a great night, and thank you for doing this interview with me.
My pleasure. You take care.
All right, send me a Marv.
See you in Kansas.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. Awesome Sauce Comics proudly brought to you its interview with Marv Wolfman. That was one more for the bad guys. If you chase them hard enough, dreams do come true. I never thought reading Crisis number 8 all those years ago would lead to me one day having a podcast and talking to him. And wow, this is just amazing. And with that, I'm going to say 1 foot in the gutter, 1 fist in the gold, too hot to handle, too cold to hold. Blind Adam out.